Officer Brad Moody was an extraordinary police officer.
Bradley was one amazing man.
It's because of him my daughter turned her life around.
It's a memorial to an extraordinary police officer and an extraordinary person.
He always went the extra mile.
It's a magnificent tribute to an officer who made the ultimate sacrifice serving his community.
Welcome to everyone. My name's Chris Magnus. I'm the police chief here in Richmond, and I know there'll be lots of introductions as we go forward, but I just want to, and I don't see where my assistant chief is, but Alwyn Brown is, he's over here to the side waving. Alwyn Brown soon will be the interim chief, and I just wanted to make sure I introduced him as we start off here. So, the dedication of this new underpass that seamlessly connects the Richmond Marina to the rest of the city really is an important milestone in Richmond's continued growth and progress. And it's especially significant to those of us in the Richmond Police Department and many members of the community because it also memorializes our connection with Officer Brad Moody. We think about Brad's life and his special contributions to our city when we drive, walk, or bicycle through this spot. Officer Brad Moody was an extraordinary police officer and person. His dedication to his job, to making Richmond a safer city, and contributing to the RPD team was unparalleled. Brad was enthusiastic, he was smart, capable, and caring. He was serious about addressing the challenges we face in Richmond involving gun violence, gangs, drugs, all of that sort of thing. But he never lost his sense of humor or his ability to demonstrate compassion and empathy. In fact, it was because of those things that Brad gained the respect of even those individuals he arrested. And of course, he gained the appreciation of neighborhood residents who came to know him. Hard to believe it's been 7 years since Officer Moody's passing. But like many others in the department, I think about him often. I also think about Brad's family, who I'm so glad could join us here today. I see Betty, Brad's mom, and many other members of the family. Just through knowing Brad and now having had the opportunity to hire and work with Brad's brother, James, who is another incredibly dedicated RPD officer, I appreciate what an amazing family both of these brothers come from. I also reflect on how much Brad's wife, Susan, who's with us today, has been through, yet how resilient, strong, and positive a person she is, and what a great job she continues to do raising their beautiful children, Madison and Emma, who are right up front with us. Welcome, you guys. This underpass and the park-like area around it is an impressive piece of engineering. Obtaining the resources required to make this underpass a reality required the hard work of many people within our city government, including the very dedicated members of our redevelopment agency and its successor agency, as well as our planning department, our engineering staff, our finance personnel, and of course, our very special city manager, Bill Lindsay. Thanks also to the Contra Costa Transportation Authority for their key role in this project. And needless to say, none of this would have been possible without the support and foresight of our city council, as well as the committed advocacy of our local representatives in the state legislature. My thanks to all these folks and really many others, including the neighborhood around here who frankly put up with this project for 2 long years, but so many people brought what seemed to be an unattainable vision at one point really into reality, and we're looking at it. I was just saying, it's great to see these trains now when they're above you, not when they're right in front of you, blocking traffic for 15 or 20 minutes, so that's pretty cool. New generations of officers and other RPD personnel continue to be hired. This morning, just before this ceremony, we swore in 5 new officers, and undoubtedly there will be others following them who will sustain RPD's proud tradition of service. Brad Moody set a high bar for policing, that this passageway to and from our department will serve as a reminder of for decades to come. So, thank you, Brad. My appreciation and love to Brad's family, and I wish all of you, but in particular the Moody family, the very warmest season's greetings. So now, it's my honor and privilege to introduce the other brother in the Moody family, who is quite the police officer in his own right, and another terrific person, Officer James Moody. James? And Brad's wife as well. Yeah, I'm sorry. You want to go first? Sure.
Good morning. On behalf of the Moody family, I would like to extend our deepest gratitude to everyone that made today possible. I would also like to thank each of you in attendance today. It means the world of us that you are here today. We are so very blessed that this underpass is dedicated in our hero's name. 5 years ago, when I approached the department for help to get a sign in Bradley's name, I had no idea how big of a project I was asking for. With the help of Sergeant Opdyke and the Richmond Police Department, we were able to visit all the neighborhood council meetings, asking them to back us in changing the name of the underpass from the Marina Bay Underpass to the Officer Bradley A. Moody Memorial Underpass. Every meeting we attended, we got a unanimous vote in favor of the name change. However, the final decision rested in the hearts of the City Council members. On February 16th, 2010, we all sat side by side with our family and close friends at the City Council meeting. When the final vote was read, and it was a unanimous vote to approve the name change, we all felt so very blessed and extremely thankful, and of course, so very emotional. Bradley deserves this. His daughters deserve this. And the entire Moody family deserves this. My heart is so happy that this day is finally here. Even though he was taken from us 7 years ago, we all know that he's still here with us. I know that he's looking down on this today, right now, feeling so very honored that this is all happening. All for him, all in his name. Every day he's been gone, I try my hardest to make sure that my daughters know that their daddy still lives on and that he will never be forgotten. And throughout the years, they have seen so many things that show them that he never will. But this is something that'll be here forever and always. His name will be on the map. His name etched on the walls of this new, beautiful underpass. Bradley will never be forgotten. I truly believe in my heart that Bradley is watching over all of us daily. I know that he sits side by side with his brother Jamie every day, protecting him while he's on duty. And I know he's so proud of him for everything that he's accomplished. I know that he watches over his sister throughout the day, especially now that she's pregnant, making sure she has a healthy pregnancy and a healthy baby. I know that he sends his mom, Betty, all the love and comfort he can to help heal her heart. She lost her son and her husband within 6 months of each other, something no one should have to face. And I know for certain that he's with the girls and I, guiding us, protecting us, giving us the strength we need to make it through the day without him. He makes himself so present in such a magical way, in such amazing times, and for that, I'm truly grateful. Bradley was one amazing man who had a great heart and a genuine soul, certainly a diamond in the rough. His mother and father raised one of the best men who ever lived. Mom, you should be extremely proud of yourself, and I know that Dad is looking down from in heaven, feeling just as proud too. Thank you for raising such an amazing man. Bradley was loved for his humor. He had a gift for making us all laugh. His dedication was unshakable. His compassion was unending. He was always true to his cause of creating a better, safer, and more secure life for everybody around him. He always went the extra mile. Although Bradley's time here was cut short, I know that I can speak for everyone that knew him. He touched the hearts of so many. He definitely changed my life. He changed my perspective in so many different ways. I strive daily to make him proud. If I would have known the outcome of our destiny back then, I would have still said yes. I will forever cherish the time I had with him, and I will always keep our memories in my heart. I feel so blessed that he gave me two of the most amazing gifts ever, our two daughters. Bradley sure does live on through Maddie and Emma. I see it daily with them. It makes me smile, but then all in the same breath, it breaks my heart. If I can give them anything in the world, it would be time back with their daddy. However, I know I can't do that. So I just keep him alive every day within their little hearts. Bradley, you are missed so very much. Your death is a vivid reminder to all of us that our lives are so fragile and all too short. While you may not physically be with us, you will forever live a little bit inside all of our hearts. You are a hero in the true sense of the word, not just because of how you died, but more importantly of how you lived your life. You lived a life full of purpose, meaning, direction, and sacrifice. We will continue to honor you every single day. We will carry out your legacy. We love you and miss you. Thank you.
Good job. Thanks for getting me cry already. No, that was perfect. This isn't going to be easy. Good morning, and thank you all for being here today to join the Moody family in the city of Richmond for the grand opening of the Officer Bradley A. Moody Underpass. My family is so very blessed to be surrounded by so much love and support for this momentous occasion. I'd first like to introduce you to my family, the Moody family. This is Mama Moody. Betty Moody, stand up, please. Brad and Susan's oldest daughter, Madison Moody, 10 years old. Their other beautiful daughter, Emma Moody, and she's 8. My wife and Brad's sister-in-law, Michelle. Our sister, Jennifer Pirro. I'm glad I said Pirro and not Moody. You can stand up. And her husband and my brother-in-law, our brother-in-law, Frank Pirro from the Fairfield Police Department. And then we got little Miss Peyton, which is our niece. And then we got one in the oven too that should be here in about a month. So I thought about what I was going to say. I probably had 5 different drafts that I was going to do. And I knew everybody would talk about Brad's dedication, his commitment, who he was, and things like that, and because he was an extraordinary person. So I thought I'd tell a few stories that really exemplify what kind of man he was and kind of a goofball that he was too. Brad was more than just a brother to me. He was my buddy. Although we had 4.5 years between us, I loved hanging out with him. There weren't many times through our childhood you wouldn't find us hanging out together. We were always actively doing things outside, like playing baseball, football, riding bikes, playing kick the can till the streetlights came on, and so on. We had so much fun growing up and enjoyed being around each other. There are so many memories of Brad that truly paint a picture of who he was. Here are 2 of my favorite memories I had the pleasure of sharing with him. Brad and I had a thing for choreographing dance routines and lip syncing to popular songs of our time. We thought we were so cool and would even do presentations for the family and friends. On one particular day when I was about 17 and Brad was about 13, we decided to borrow Mom and Dad's video camera to record our routine. I grabbed the camera, Brad grabbed his boom box, and up to his room we went. Brad placed the camera on his top bunk and positioned it just right to capture the moment. Just before I pushed the start button to start our routine, Brad pipes in and says, "Hey, we have to get into character first." So he suggested we take off our shirts and put a hat on sideways. So we did that. We then got back into our positions, pushed record on the video camera, and play on the boombox, and the next thing you heard was a song, "Jump" by Criss Cross. For 3.5 minutes, we lip-synced to the song and danced our routine. Brad was bouncing all around the room, fluid and smooth, with rhythm and grace. Then there was me, looking like a fish out of water, all jerky and awkward. But that wasn't the most humiliating thing we did. At the conclusion of the song, Brad and I looked directly into the camera, struck a pose, crossed our own arms like we were it, and then we flexed. It was an awesome moment. We thought we were the best thing since sliced bread. A couple of years later, when I went away to college, I had Brad come stay with me in my dorm room for a weekend. That Saturday night, I decided it'd be a great idea to take my 14-year-old brother to a fraternity party. We didn't drink, Mom, I promise. Once at the party, I quickly made our way to the dance floor. You would think that being surrounded by 18 to 22-year-old college students would be a little intimidating for a 14-year-old. Not for Brad. He jumped out on the dance floor and danced all night long. At one point, I left the dance floor for a few minutes, and upon my return, I saw a group of college girls in a circle. As I got closer, I saw who other than my brother in the middle. He was dancing with these girls. At one point, the girls began to chant, "Go, Brad! Go, Brad!" He was the life of the party. Growing up with Brad were some of the best memories of my life. He was always a very outgoing person and always personal with everyone he came in contact with. These two qualities stuck with him as a police officer, and I later found out made him a very special officer. As time moved on, our time together became limited, and Brad continued to pursue his dream of becoming an officer. His determination and perseverance to never give up, no matter what the obstacles stand in your way, ultimately got him landed a job in the Richmond Police Department at the young age of 21. Receiving his badge to be a police officer was one of the best days of his life. His dream he had since he was 6 years old was finally true. Brad never took for granted the huge responsibility that comes with wearing the badge, especially the badge for the city of Richmond. Brad had a lot of pride, not only as a law enforcement officer, but as a Richmond police officer. He knew that the city of Richmond at the time he was hired was one of the top 5 most violent cities in the nation. That never fazed Brad. He looked at this statistic as a challenge to make a difference. During his 8 years working for the Richmond Police Department, Brad did just that. He made a difference. Brad was known for his numerous felony arrests, both as a solo officer and when he teamed up with his partner, Officer Funk. He was an expert in gang activity and validated one of the most violent criminal street gangs in Richmond. He did collateral assignments where he tested and passed with ease. He was a member of the elite SWAT team and became part of the K-9 unit. Brad flourished as an officer and proved to be a huge part of this police department. Many of those who worked with Brad describe him as one of the best street cops to walk the streets. Brad commonly received commendations for his excellent work and dedication to the job. He made his family proud. I was always proud of my brother and looked up to him. But it wasn't until I came to the department I truly got an essence of Officer Bradley Moody. Shortly after Brad's passing, I was able to become an officer for the city of Richmond. While working a beat, I was told thousands of stories about Officer Brad Moody. They all captured of Brad and who he was as an officer. They proved to me that Brad was always himself. He carried on all of his great qualities that were instilled in by his family and by his parents and applied them to his working life. Here are a few of my favorite stories that I've heard when I became a police officer. One day while working patrol, I conducted a vehicle stop in central Richmond. I approached the car and spoke with the female driver of the vehicle. The female driver looked at my nameplate and started to ask, "Are you related to?" And she hesitated. I then saw a tear roll down her cheek. "Yes, I am," I replied. "Officer Bradley Moody is my younger brother." She exited the car, wrapped her arms around my neck, and gave me a huge hug. After a brief hug, she began to tell me a story. Your brother was an amazing officer. A few years ago, I was having a problem with my teenage daughter. She was hanging out with the wrong people, getting bad grades, and was very disrespectful. One day I was driving around with my daughter, and I just had enough of her attitude. I saw a patrol vehicle. I stopped my car and walked up to the patrol car and talked to Officer Moody. I explained to him my problems and begged him to talk with my out-of-control daughter. Without hesitation, he went over to the car and he had a lengthy conversation with her. His talk was impactful, and she started to change her ways. But the thing that truly got her to turn around her life was when he would come by the house almost every weekend to check up on her. He checked her grades, asked her how she was doing, and told her, "I got my eye on you." It's because of him my daughter turned her life around. Another story I was told came from a fellow officer and partner when he rode a two-man patrol vehicle with Dave Funk. I came into work one day with an email from Detective Funk. The email contained a photo and a one-line comment of, "Come see me upstairs, and I'll explain the photo." So I printed the photo and walked to his cubicle. The photo was a crime scene photo of a shooting scene. In the photo was my brother in full uniform, Officer Brad Moody, leaning down by a victim of a shooting. My initial thought was he was obtaining information from the victim, but I was totally wrong. Dave told me that the victim had been shot in the chest and was in critical condition. As Brad arrived on scene, he immediately recognized the victim as someone he had previous contacts with. When Brad exited his vehicle, he walked over to the victim, leaned down next to him, and held out his right hand. The victim grabbed Brad's hand, and Brad started talking to him, telling him to relax, letting him know he's going to be okay. Brad didn't leave the victim's side and stayed with him until medical arrived. Dave looked at me and said, "That's your brother. He was unique, special, and one of a kind. He was great at what he did and had a ton of respect on the streets." But my favorite story of all time was told to me about 4 years ago. I was patrolling the Southern District doing routine patrol and made a traffic stop. During my conversation, I noticed that one of the young men looking at my nameplate. He then said, "Hey, you Moody's brother?" He was cool. I told him I was, and I started to ask him what made Brad so cool. He then told me the following. One day back when I was a teenager, I was walking through the park acting a fool, and Moody stopped me. He gave me a pass, but what he told me before he cut me loose, I will always remember. He told me this: "We will come in contact again, and here are a few things you should know about me. 1, if you run from me, I will catch you. 2, if you fight me, I will win. And 3, and the most important one, if you respect me, I will respect you." He said Moody kept it real. He was always respectful to me, even if he caught me slipping. He always remembered my name and said what's up as he rolled through the neighborhood. Not too many officers like that exist today. I enjoyed this story the most because for me it captured who Brad was. He knew he had a job to do, but he always held true to his core values. He always conducted himself morally and ethically. He was himself. Brad had the perfect balance of being a crime fighter and engaging in his community. Brad was a guardian in his heart with the mentality of a warrior. He will forever be missed. A special thanks to everyone out here today for being here with us. I know it took a lot of people out here in order to make this a reality. Brad is looking down on us today, and I'm confident that he is. I know he has his huge smile with his big dimples just looking and saying thank you. You have truly honored my brother, and thank you so much for being here. Thank you, Chief.
Great.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you. Thank you both. So before we go on with our program, if we could just, I think this is a good time for a moment of silence where we just reflect on Officer Brad Moody and his contributions to our community, to his family, to us all. Thank you all so much for that. All right, so a project like this could not move forward without the key role of really the coach in a situation like this, and that would be our city manager, Bill Lindsay, who's going to come up and say a few words. Mr. Lindsay?
Thank you. Thanks everybody for being here and for what is the official opening of something that is not just an infrastructure project. I was talking to the landscape architect David Gates earlier this morning, and he described it as an entry statement, a portal, and a memorial. It's a memorial to an extraordinary police officer and an extraordinary person, as you just heard. It's an entry statement for a neighborhood, and in many ways, it's a portal to the future of Richmond in the statement that it makes. And I wanted to acknowledge the many people that were involved in making this a reality. As Officer James Moody just said, that a lot of people were involved in this and worked very hard. And I want to talk a little bit about this piece of work behind us that is many ways a sculpture as well as a means of transportation. First, I want to acknowledge several people that work to make this a reality in this city administration. First is Mayor Tom Butt, who you'll hear from in a couple of minutes, the chair of the city council. And then we have several council members here. We have Council Member Eduardo Martinez. Council Member Vinay Pimple is here. And former Mayor Gail McLaughlin, current Councilmember Gail McLaughlin, is wanted to be here. She's sick today and wasn't able to make it, but she wanted me to make sure that I sent regrets. And then the other members of our city council, Councilmember Nat Bates, Councilmember J.L. Myrick, and Councilmember Javanka Beckles. I also wanted to acknowledge from Congressman DeSaulnier's office, Christopher Whitmore. We also have Abel Pineda from Assemblymember Thurman's office. Sonia Bustamante is here from Supervisor John Joy's office. And I also wanted to acknowledge, and I'll talk later about the role of Senator Hancock in helping us with this project, and also former Assemblymember Nancy Skinner. Before I start and get into the nitty-gritties, some details, I especially wanted to acknowledge the work of Chad Smalley, who has been the project manager representing the Redevelopment Agency, Successor Agency, City of Richmond, and has been in this been working on this project since its inception. And there is a lot of Chad's life, blood, sweat, and tears in this memorial. So, Chad, thank you very much. So let me talk a little bit about this. The project started on July 8th, 2013, and it reopened July 2nd, 2015. And I can tell you Chad made sure it was July 2nd so he could get people to the fireworks celebration, and it wasn't not July 5th. He worked very hard on that. The grade separation is a top-down method. You place subterranean deep soil mix walls, constructing the bridge at grade level, and then excavate the roadway below the bridge. You have to install tiebacks through the walls as the excavation progressed. The bridge was actually put in place in only 4 weekends, and that's within a 44-hour railroad work window. And so if it only took 4 weekends, Chad, I don't know why it took so long. It was 2 years. But I have a feeling I know why. Just some stats about this. And over 4,000 cubic yards of concrete poured, over 3 million pounds of steel beams in the deep soil mix walls. The bridge weighs over 500,000 pounds, over 700,000 pounds of rebar in the ground, a pump station. There's water constantly moving under there, and we'll see that in storm events. The pump station have the ability to pump 3,000 gallons per minute each. There are three pumps. There are 100 tiebacks that help support the walls south of the bridge, and they vary in length between 24 and 56 feet. Not an easy job. It was expensive, about a $40 million project. And on a project like this with this expense, it's never one funding source. A lot of people have to work to make the funding come together. We had a contribution from the Successor Agency of only $2 million of that $40 million. We had trade corridor improvement funding of $19 million, highway rail crossing safety account, these are state sources, of about $4 million, and that was granted by the California Transportation Commission. We also had a funding partner in the Contra Costa Transportation Authority. The Transportation Authority worked with the local West County Transportation Advisory Committee, and also with the Water Emergency Transportation Authority that is going to bring ferry service to Richmond to connect San Francisco. They provided $9 million, and the thing about the Contra Costa Transportation Authority is they don't just write checks. They're outstanding problem solvers in the way they approach projects and the way they approach funding, and this was absolutely no exception. Developer fees were contributed by Pulte in about $3 million, Union Pacific Railroad $2 million, and East Bay Municipal District, East Bay MUD contributed $500,000. Now let me talk about the people that did the work. General contractor Gordon Ball, the construction management team, the Hanna Group. We had Jacqueline Majors of Jacqueline Majors and Associates doing the community outreach. Design and engineering, BKF Engineers. And David Gates of David Gates and Associates was the landscape architect. I mentioned David before. He and I have worked on different projects for probably 25 years now, and he always does outstanding work. There was also a great local economic impact from the project. There was $7.5 million in Richmond business participation, over 25,000 hours worked by Richmond residents. This is a project that also created jobs. The Richmond contractors and suppliers included West Tech Roofing, Whiteside Concrete Construction, Hillside Drilling, Net Electric, Channel Lumber, CJC Trucking, and Ciramelli Electric. There were also some really outstanding community partners involved in this, and they actually saved the project. The Marina Bay Neighborhood Council, led by Stan Anderson. There was a time when when redevelopment agencies were being dissolved, that the state said, you don't have a project anymore. And the Marina Bay neighborhood came together, rallied the community, sent countless letters. We had help from Senator Hancock's office, Assemblymember Skinner's office, and they were able to convince the Department of Finance that yes, we did have a project. We had a signed contract. We had $38 million of funds that would evaporate if we weren't allowed to use that $2 million to make it work. And finally, it did work. The immediate neighbors had to put up with the construction. Anchorage Homeowners Association, thank you. California Department of Public Health, the Richmond campus here, crossings at Marina Bay, and PG&E. We unfortunately had to affect the local businesses, and I want to thank them particularly for their patience, and I want to encourage you to go out and spend some money at their place. Artisan Kitchen, Cafe Pascal, Botto Bistro, Baga Enterprises, which owns Quiznos, and Salute Restaurante. They were very, very patient as we had to close the road and create detours. This wasn't not easy. Other partners included all the utilities, PG&E, East Bay Mud, AT&T, Transit Systems, AC Transit. I mentioned the Water Emergency Transportation Authority and the railroads involved in this. 11 Richmond Terminal with the Richmond Pacific Railroad, Union Pacific, and Burlington Northern Santa Fe. All of these individuals that I've named have helped to make this possible. And just one other partner we had, these keychains here, made by the Kennedy High School Fab Lab, just for this event. So thank you to the Fab Lab for contributing that. Again, I want to thank all of those involved. I'd like to name all the names if I could, but I can't in the interest of time, but you know who you are. You did a tremendous, tremendous work in creating this project, and I sincerely thank you for all of your efforts. It's now my privilege to introduce a person that I work with now very closely and I have a great deal of respect for. Hopefully we'll have more ribbon cuttings, groundbreakings as we continue to progress Richmond in a good, positive way. So I'd like to introduce now Mayor Tom Budd.
Thank you, Bill. First, I would like to acknowledge the Moody family right here in the front row, some of whom you've already heard from, and we'll be calling them up again to make some presentations in a minute. I was honored to be a member of the City Council in 2010 when we voted unanimously to dedicate this project to Brad Moody. It's a magnificent tribute to an officer who made the ultimate sacrifice serving his community. Even though you've already heard it, I want to repeat thanking some of the elected officials who played a key role in making this possible. Senator Lonnie Hancock and former Assembly Member Nancy Skinner. In addition to sitting on the Richmond City Council, I also serve on the board of the Contra Costa Transportation Authority, and I want to remind everybody that that organization was responsible for $11 million of the $37 million that it took to construct this project. This project is a very important asset to our community for a number of reasons. Before the underpass was built, we had a grade crossing here. It was a public safety hazard, and it was also a huge inconvenience because at the time the railroad was running these mile-long trains through here, and sometimes they just stopped, and they were here sometimes for an hour or two. And so we're not going to have any more trains blocking this street anymore. And neither are we going to have a safety hazard. There will never be a collision between a train and a motor vehicle at this intersection again. From a noise standpoint, although this particular grade crossing was in a quiet zone, those kinds of things can come and go, but we'll never have a horn at this intersection again. And I can tell you that our neighbors over here appreciate that very much. And then finally, the issue of access. It's already been mentioned, but I think it's worth emphasizing again the fact that ferry service will be coming to Richmond in late 2017, early 2018, and there will never be a time where a train will block an essential access to that ferry service, because this street will always be open. It's also will always be open to our public safety vehicles. We have the police department right over here, we have the rest of Richmond right over here, and when there's a train in between and there's some kind of a critical incident, that's a problem. But this road will always be open. It will always be open to provide access to businesses. So it will benefit the businesses. Businesses create jobs. They bring tax revenue to the city of Richmond. Everybody gets something out of this. And then finally, I guess we're down to the time now where we'd like to present some certificates. And I would like to ask representatives of Tony Thurman's office, Mark DeSaulnier's office, John Joya's office to come forward. And I would like for my staff to bring the certificates.
On behalf of Congressman Mark DeSaulnier and his staff, I'd like to present to the Moody family a certificate of special congressional recognition, recognizing the dedication and ribbon cutting of this underpass. And I'd also like to present a letter from Congressman Mark DeSaulnier in appreciation to Officer Bradley Moody.
And I am able, from Assembly Member Tony Thurman's office. Unfortunately, he was not able to attend today, but it's a great honor to be able to present a certificate of recognition for the completion of the project and also to celebrate the life of Mr. Moody. And so our certificate is in honor of the ribbon cutting ceremony of the and underpass dedication to Mr. Bradley A. Moody, who dedicated his life and career as a public servant. I recognize the extraordinary service that he provided for 7 years as a police officer for the city of Richmond and its residents. Mr. Moody was a valued member of the community and is remembered for his courage and conviction. On behalf of the state of California and the 15th Assembly District, we remember and honor him for putting his life on the line to help others. I'd like to present this to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much.
I'm Sonia Bustamante with Supervisor John Joya's office. Thank you so much for allowing us to be a part of this celebration with you today. This is an official certificate of recognition awarded to the Moody family in acknowledgement of Officer Bradley A. Moody Underpass, recognizing his honorable, selfless, and dedicated service to the people of the city of Richmond. Thank you so much.
And last but not least, on behalf of the city of Richmond, I want to read this citation. Whereas Officer Bradley Moody served in the Richmond Police Department from February 2001 to October 2008, and whereas Officer Bradley Moody exemplified the highest standards of law enforcement and commitment to public service throughout his career, whereas October 8th, 2015 marks the 7-year anniversary of Officer Brad Moody's passing following a tragic accident on Marina Bay Parkway en route to an officer's call for assistance during an assault. And whereas on February 16, 2010, the City Council of the City of Richmond dedicated the Marina Bay Parkway underpass to honor the sacrifice of Officer Bradley Moody. And whereas Officer Bradley Moody is remembered for his service as an officer and keeper of peace, and a beloved husband and father and son. And whereas Officer Bradley Moody is also remembered by Richmond residents as being strong, courageous, and an honorable officer and a dedicated handler to his canine partner, Rico. Now therefore it be resolved that I, Tom Butt, Mayor of the City of Richmond, on December 17th, 2015, do hereby celebrate the completion of the Officer Bradley A. Moody Memorial Underpass and recognize Officer Moody for his service and sacrifice as a Richmond police officer and acknowledge the work and honor that he was committed to. Okay, would Sherez come forward? He has a presentation of a quilt for the family here, so. Excellent. If you'd like to say something.
Yeah, absolutely. 15 years ago, I lost my son. In the process of losing my son, I met a person named Michael Lazay. He received the lungs of Bradley Mooney. And I was pretty touched by that. Well, police officers from all over the United States I've been meeting, they've been sending me patches. And it took me a year to learn how to sew, and I made a quilt. And God told me to start making the quilts for fallen police officers' families. So, from my family to yours, I give you this quilt.
Thank you so much.
Should we unveil it? Sure. Let's take a look. I think we need to see this.
I'm gonna hold these, Mr.
It's pretty big.
It is. Wow. All right. So I understand the string is about to be pulled. Is everybody ready down there? I see we are ready to go. So let's do the ceremonial rope pulling. All right, there we go. Officer Bradley A. Moody Memorial Underpass. It is now official. All right, are we ready? On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. All right. Woo! Officer Brad Moody was an extraordinary police officer.
Bradley was one amazing man.
It's because of him my daughter turned her life around.
It's a memorial to an extraordinary police officer and an extraordinary person.
He always went the extra mile.
It's a magnificent tribute to an officer who made the ultimate sacrifice serving his community.